I am 88 years old, and I need to tell you something that nobody told me until it was almost too late. The thing that is quietly ruining your life right now is not the big problem. It is the small one. The one you keep telling yourself is not worth dealing with yet. The one you have been pushing to the back of the shelf for 6 months or 2 years or a decade, telling yourself you will get to it when things settle down. I am here to tell you, from the other side of 88 years of watching small problems become catastrophes, that things do not settle down, and small problems do not wait. They grow, quietly, patiently, without announcing themselves. And by the time you finally turn around to look at them, they are not small anymore, and the window to fix them cheaply and easily and without real damage has been closed for a long time. I know you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly which small problem I mean. It came to your mind the moment I said the words. That is the one. I want to tell you about a man named Walter. I knew Walter for 30 years, a neighbor of mine, a decent and intelligent man who had a gift for solving complicated problems at work and an absolute genius for ignoring simple ones at home. Walter had a leak in his roof. Not a dramatic leak, not the kind that sends water pouring through your ceiling in sheets, just a small, persistent drip in the corner of the second bedroom that he noticed in the spring of 1987. He put a bucket under it. He told his wife Helen he would get someone to look at it before winter. Winter came. He put a larger bucket under it. He told Helen he would handle it in the spring when the weather was better. Spring came. The drip was slightly worse. He got a quote from a roofer and flinched at the number and decided to get a second opinion and never got around to calling for the second opinion. Summer came. Fall came. Another winter. Another bucket. You already know where this is going. By 1992, the damage had spread from one corner to the entire back section of the roof. The small repair that would have cost him several $100s in 1987 had become a full roof replacement that cost him more than he had in savings. He had to borrow money from his brother-in-law, which strained a relationship that never fully recovered. Helen did not say, "I told you so." She was too kind for that. But Walter told me years later that he could see it in her eyes every time the subject came up. Not anger, just the quiet exhaustion of a woman who had watched the same pattern repeat across 30 years of marriage. The roof was just one example. There were others. There were always others with Walter. He was not a lazy man. That is the important thing to understand. Walter was one of the hardest working people I have ever known. He was meticulous at his job, thorough and careful, and detail-oriented in ways that earned him consistent respect from everyone he worked with. But at home, with his own life, with the small accumulating things that needed attention, he had a blind spot the size of a barn door. He treated discomfort as a reason to postpone rather than a signal to act. And the gap between those two responses, between postponing and acting, is where years disappear and damage compounds, and the easy version of the fix quietly expires. Walter's bucket is still the image I reach for whenever I feel the pull to put something off. Not the roof, not the money, the bucket. The specific image of a man walking past a bucket in the corner of a room every single day for 5 years, adjusting to its presence, normalizing it, incorporating it into the furniture of his life so completely that he stopped seeing it as a problem and started seeing it as just the way things were. That is what small problems do when you let them sit long enough. They stop looking like problems. They start looking like wallpaper. Now here is what most people think this is about. They think it is a practical message about home maintenance or financial planning or getting things done. And yes, it is that. But it is also something deeper. Because the small problems I watched destroy people's lives were not always about roofs or leaky pipes or car maintenance. The worst ones were the small problems inside relationships. The small resentments that were never named. The small distances that were never closed. The small grievances that were never spoken and never forgiven and never released, and just kept sitting there between two people, growing roots into the floor. I watched a marriage end after 34 years over a collection of small things that were individually so minor that saying any one of them out loud would have sounded absurd. He never remembered how she took her coffee. She stopped asking about his day somewhere around year 12. He made a joke at a dinner party in 1978 that embarrassed her and never apologized because he did not realize she needed the apology, and she never told him because she did not think she should have to. None of those things were the marriage ending. All of them together, compounded over 3 decades without ever being addressed, were exactly that. They were a roof with a small drip in the corner of the second bedroom. And by the time either of them turned around to look at it clearly, it was too late to fix with anything less than everything. I have seen this pattern for nearly 9 decades. In the 40s, I watched men come home from war with small, unaddressed wounds. Not the physical ones, the other kind. And watched those small wounds become large silences that families organized themselves around for generations. In the 50s and 60s, I watched neighborhoods decline, one unmaintained property at a time. Each small neglect signaling to the next person that standards had shifted, that letting things go was acceptable, until the small neglects became the neighborhood. In every decade I have lived through, I have watched the same truth demonstrate itself with perfect consistency. Small things unattended become large things unavoidable. The universe does not let you skip the bill. It just lets you defer it. And the interest is punishing. Here is what I know now that I wish I had understood at 30. The feeling that makes you put something off, that slight wince of reluctance, that I will deal with it later instinct. That feeling is not a signal that the problem is too small to bother with. It is a signal that the problem is exactly the right size to fix right now, before it changes size. The problems that feel manageable and ignorable today are manageable and ignorable because they are still small. That is the window. That feeling of it is not that bad yet is the universe handing you the easiest version of the fix. And most people hand it back unopened. I want you to think about something in your life right now that fits this description. Not the enormous crisis, not the thing that is already demanding your attention, but the quiet thing, the small thing, the thing you have a vague awareness of that you keep not quite getting to. The conversation you keep meaning to have, the appointment you keep meaning to make, the habit you know is getting worse, but is not yet unbearable, the relationship that has a small crack in it that you tell yourself will close on its own. That thing, the one you just thought of. When did it start being something you were aware of? A month ago? A year ago? Longer? And how big is it now compared to when you first noticed it? Because I promise you, it is not smaller. Things do not get smaller by being left alone. That is not how things work. That has never been how things work. I was not always good at this myself. I want to be honest with you about that because I am not standing here as someone who got everything right. I had my own buckets and corners of my own rooms. I had a conversation I owed my brother for 12 years that I kept not having because it required admitting something I was not ready to admit. And by the time I was ready, my brother was sick, and the conversation we had was not the easy version. It was the late version, which got the essential things said, but cost us both more than the easy version would have cost, and left less time than we deserved to live in the aftermath of having said it. We had 3 good years after that conversation. I am grateful for 3 years. But I spent 12 years manufacturing reasons why it was not quite the right moment yet. And every one of those reasons felt true at the time and was lying. The right moment for the small thing is always now. Not when you are ready, not when the other person seems more approachable, not when you have more time or more money or more energy or more of whatever you have decided you need before you can begin. Now, while it is still small, while the fix is still proportionate to the problem, while the damage is still surface level and has not yet gone to the structure. Here is the practical truth that I want you to carry with you after this video ends. Every week you wait on a small problem, it becomes slightly more expensive in some currency. Sometimes it is money, sometimes it is health. Sometimes it is the particular currency of emotional distance between you and someone you love. The kind of distance that accumulates so gradually you do not notice it until you reach for the person and realize they are farther away than they used to be, and neither of you can quite identify when that happened. The cost goes up, the window gets smaller. The easy version of the fix expires, and what was once a single honest conversation, or a simple phone call, or an afternoon of attention, becomes a years-long repair project that takes everything you have and still leaves marks. Walter fixed his roof eventually. He fixed a lot of things eventually. But he also ran out of eventually on some of the things that mattered most. His daughter moved across the country in 1995, and the small awkwardness between them that he kept meaning to address traveled with her and grew in the distance. And by the time Walter understood that it needed his real and full and humble attention, she had built a life that did not have much room in it for a father who had always been about to get to it. He told me about it near the end of his life, with the specific regret of a man who knows exactly where he went wrong and exactly when the window closed, and can replay both with perfect and useless clarity. Do not let that be your story. You have the window right now for the small thing, for the conversation, the appointment, the apology, the habit, the check on the person you have been meaning to check on, the repair that is still a repair and not yet a replacement. The window is open. It will not be open indefinitely. It is open right now. I am 88 years old. I have watched small problems take down big lives my entire life. And I am telling you, with everything I have left, that the cost of acting now on the small thing is nothing. Nothing at all compared to the cost of acting later on the large version of it. Fix the roof while it is still a drip. That is all. That is everything. Go do it today.